Hello, folks. Welcome back. Nouvelle Botswana. Bonjour, l'Afrique de l'Ouest. Le Niger. How's everybody doing today? Welcome back to South Africa. Sawubona, South Africa. Goeiedag. Good to see everybody. Welcome back. Glad to see everybody here on a lovely Sunday afternoon here on the East Coast of the United States. Whether you find yourself already looking at tomorrow out there in Asia, in Japan, or Hong Kong, somewhere like that. If you can actually get on the tube and it's on Hong Kong. Wondering if that's actually the case these days with everything that's happening in Hong Kong with the Chinese Communist Party trying to undermine civil liberties. Sounds like my sound is bad again. Hang on a second. Okay, is that better? Let's see if that works a little bit better. It was terrible. What the deal with the sound is there? Yeah, it was distorted. It was really messed up. No, not great. What's the deal here? Let me just try to start all over again here. All right, I'm back. I hope that's better. Fingers crossed. Let's see what happens, folks. Thank you for your patience. Wow, a bunch of people just dropped off. Okay. Does that sound better? Do a little sound test right there. Adjust the volume. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So how does that sound? Okay, that sounds a lot better. Sorry about that, folks. Computers. I don't get it. You can hear it's a miracle. Nigel can hear. All right, cool beans. All right, well, welcome back, folks. Sorry about that. Little technical fault there at the beginning again. Good evening, everybody. Jansa van Rensburg says, good evening, tribe. Excellent. Love it. Hey, folks, let's put the British and Irish Lions tour up there in the corner. And I'd put it down further, but you really can't see the background because the color mix, it's a transparent image. So anyway, welcome so much in on a Sunday to Indaba Africa. This is Chris on the Chris White Africa channel. Glad to have you guys here. Let's see who we've got in the chat. I'll say hello to everybody now that I've got the sound sorted a bit better. By the way, all I did was unplug, replug, and restart software. Can you imagine? So Marinas Bota was here first. Hey, there's Erica, Sean, Wesley, Deborah, Labaskakni. No, sorry, Deborah Olivier. Oliver. Anyway, Morton, Hank, Adrian say good to see you. Erica saying hello to everybody. Karen, good to see you. Got your Moai as your membership identifier on there. Good to see you. Nigel, no sound. Sound should be fixed now. Keith, Sky Greg T, good to see you. Who else? Joe is here. Sloth Puppy's popped in. Good to see you, Sloth Puppy. Welcome, everybody. Hey, happy Sunday. Today, a little bit different. No Starbucks. I thought I'd drink from my U.S. Army War College mug, which is great for beer, but this is not beer, by the way. I'll let you know that. Problem with that, though, is it gets on the mustache. Anyway, so is it true that North Korea big man has died? I have not heard that. That must be breaking news. I checked news out a while ago. Did not see that mention. Did not see that mention at all, ladies and gentlemen. So I don't know if that's true or not. We'll have to take a look and see. Anyway, wow, that would be breaking news to say the least. I do have some news that I brought up, so we'll talk about today, including some excellent analysis on why the virus has been spreading in South Africa and what's been happening with the government there. Let me see what happens here. North Korea. No, doesn't look like it. It's not reported in the news so far. Yeah, we'll see. But anyway, yeah. So there you have it. Don't know if it's true or not. Hank says it's not a beer, it's a schuss. Yeah, I can always tell who was in for that live stream that Friday evening with Joe Emilio when the only time I've ever had a beverage, alcoholic beverage on the channel. And those who are here, I know who you are because you always identify yourself talking about chuspia. Anyway, so nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying I recognize it. The South African says, do you know anything about the schools in South Africa yet? I know their Minister of Education has had a speech today, but no news. No, the news is unclear as to what's going on with schools in South Africa. I expect to see them try to come up with some cockamamie scheme in which 1/3 of students can attend and 2/3 can't. We'll see. Cape Town had March Against Farm Murders, well supported. Yeah, that was supposed to be a nationwide one, wasn't there, on the 18th? But I haven't seen much press coverage. Herman, good to see you there. Welcome, Herman. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, for those who don't know, although I think most people here now today actually know because it's the usual suspects as we search for Kaiser Sose. But I think that most of you present here do know that Joe Emilio has been fighting a legal case against someone who disparaged him and attacked him online and led to him losing employment. So he decided not to let the cancel culture pass and has pursued a legal case. Well, legal cases aren't free. Joe lost his only paying gig, so he's trying to raise money. And he got a very generous donation from our good friend, the tobacco farmer, Herman Rus, who gave him, Herman, it's already out of the bag, so I'm not letting any news out, but you donated 5,000 Rand to his legal fund to help him pursue this case. So very generous for Herman. My salute to you. Well done. And we announced that on the channel on the live stream when Joe was here a couple days ago because I wanted to use it as a means to challenge folks to go out and try to top that donation, which was incredibly generous. And we did get someone to top it pretty quickly there. Reese and Yanni van der Vaart donated 5,001 Rand to support it. Thank you to all the folks out there who've gone to Joe's link and donated money for the legal effort. He is already at 15,000 Rand very quickly, so thank you for that. He's got to raise at least 35,000 Rand to pay for the attorney's fees and court costs and such. So thank you all so much for that effort for Joe Emilio. Really appreciate it. Joe, a American/South African comedian based in South Africa, living in the Western Cape. I understand that he and Jeremy Nell from Germ Warfare had lunch the other day. What's going on there? Anyway, so they had lunch the other day in the Western Cape. I guess you can sit down in a restaurant and eat. I didn't know that. Things keep changing all the time. Education Department not commenting today, Rudy says. That's correct. That's why I said I don't know the answer. It's kind of all over the place. South African says, my mother and I need the... okay, South African, clearly you do need to go to school. Me and my mother is not the correct way to say it. You always show respect for others and say, my mother and I. Just teasing you, South African. A little free grammar lesson on a Sunday. So you can go to school through YouTube. Just kidding. Angela Woonhorst, because despite implementing protocols, the company is infested and we're forced to be there. 3 confirmed cases, 4 confirmed positive exposures. They refuse to wear masks and sanitize. Who are you talking about, Angela? Are you talking about schools? Is that what you're talking about? Please share with us. It's not clear. It's clear in your head, but the text is not the best way to communicate. So please let me know. So glad to support him. We must stand together. Yeah, Herman, I'm with you. That's great. We're doing really well. The South African says, my mother works as a cook at a public school, and yes, I need some grammar. Well, you took that in a good spirit. I appreciate that, the South African. Very good. I don't know how you got that, the South African, man. How you registered that name. That was pretty clever. That was you got one that people probably wanted. There's actually a news site called the South African. They probably would love to have that handle. Anyway, good job. Well done. Schools in the USA and UK opening. We're all over the place in the US on the school opening, and the UK opening is not till September. They are not reopening in the summertime to catch up for the previous year, so we're going to have a lot of kids, a lot of work to catch up. New batteries in your keyboard, sorted that. Well, good, Sky, great team. Angela says, in your workplace. Okay, well, again, that's something that, thank you for that clarification, Angela, or Angela, but one would need a better appreciation of what you're talking about. Are you working in an office space, an office building? I mean, people working in warehouses, mask may or may not be necessary. It just depends the close proximity of people. So use my first name, South African is my last name. That's how you did it. Aren't you clever? Very smart. Yeah, see, okay, well, he may need work on his grammar, but he's clever. Or he or she, I don't know the gender. Anyway, so I don't mean to offend if anybody's non-binary, intersectional. I'm sure the South African's not, but just saying that. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Chris Wide Africa on a lovely Sunday here on the East Coast of the United States. We'll get into the news in just a moment here, but let me see, there's a few other pieces of news coming out here, or people sharing things, not news. Marnus, where's that at? Okay, Marnus says, my father's cousin tested positive. She says you have second thoughts of your life, and she's over 65. It is bad. COVID is not a joke. Thank you for sharing that, Martinez. No, COVID is not a joke. It's quite serious. It's a highly infectious virus. It's very dangerous and easily transmittable. But there are countermeasures that folks can take that are reasonable and easy to take, which diminish the likelihood of transmitting. There's also steps people can take to not be hysterical, as our government officials have been. The actions of governments have not really made things better in most places, and they've made people hysterical about it and people overreacting. So thank you for sharing that, Marinus. My thoughts and prayers to your father's cousin. I hope that that she recovers. Okay. Bobby B says non-binary is a mental disorder brought on by Marxist indoctrination. I think that might be the case. Speaking of which, I have a little news story on that. I'll put up from somebody who is non-binary or claims to be. Sal Evans says, first I tried to mention Ronaldo for some reason. Second, I have to go take a bath real quick. Be back in a few. Yeah, Ronaldo was streaming on Mad Made Radio. I don't know if he's still on the air. He may be now, so not sure. Did you watch the video I shared regarding the hospital in the Cape? I did not, Lynn. I'm behind. I slept in, folks. Okay, full disclosure. A little bit tired. It was a long week between long work, exercise, and a lot of streams and a lot of research for writing and reviewing a journal article that someone submitted to me. I'm an editor, a reviewer for a publication, academic publication, so I've been reviewing that. Plus, a protege sent me a paper that he wrote on Africa asking me to review it, who's still in the Army. So I've been a little busy, tired. I slept in this morning, didn't get up till after 9:30, which for me is pretty late. So I'm behind on my email messages. So if you've sent me email messages to my account from here, and you've sent me a message, I'm behind on that by a few days. And I did take a peek at the titles, and some people sent me some very helpful things. So for my apologies for that. But I will try to catch up on that this evening on the emails. And also I'll try to catch up on a few other things. So no, I did not watch that video yet, Lynn. Thank you for setting it up. Appreciate it. 300 people, I'm in payroll. Okay, gotcha, Angela. 300 people in payroll, people respect the clear post in the door, they wear a mask. Yeah, okay, so here, for those of you know, I've spoken out about this ever since it started. From the time that they told us don't wear masks, they have no effect. I question that, but I did say that it was wise for people not to rush out and buy masks because first responders, law enforcement, hospital and clinic workers need them because they need to prevent spreading disease to people who are ill. So I've always had a position on masks. My view on this is that if your place of employment asks or requires you to wear a mask and you're in close proximity, it's a courtesy to others. You ought to do it. If they ask you, if they require it, that's a different story. But if you're asked to do it, if they require it and you refuse to do it, well, then you're insubordinate. There's where I'm at. Any place I've been required to wear a mask, I've worn a mask despite my objections to it and my disagreement with it. I wear it because it's required. Whether it's a legal requirement, legitimate or not, I don't question that. That's something someone can sort out in the courts. But out of an abundance of caution, if it's made a requirement, I do wear it. So for instance, here in Pennsylvania, it was required to enter businesses, you had to wear a mask, and then they eased that restriction. I wore it when they made me wear it. When they eased it, I took the mask off, and I kept a safe distance away from everybody in the store. I wore plastic gloves when I walked in the store to touch the trolleys and pick up things in the store. And then I went to the till. The tills all have plexiglass now, so you're not in contact with the people behind the till. I use contactless payment. Just wave my card in front of us, so nobody has to touch anything. While other people who are terrified and freaking out and wearing entire head coverings, basically look like they're wearing a hijab, are standing there terrified and they're handing cash to people. Not realizing the stupidity of the fact that I'm not against cash. In fact, I don't want to see cash disappear. But if you handle something physical that you touch frequently, like cash, and hand the bills to someone, that's how you're going to transmit the virus, not me standing behind a piece of plexiglass wearing a mask. Anyway, so if it's required, I wear it. If it's optional to ask me to wear it as a courtesy, depending on the location, I'll wear it. I walk into Starbucks, they have broken the store down, taken all the tables out. Now they've changed the rules on the 15th of July, so I'm no longer shopping at Starbucks. But before that, the employees were required to wear masks, so I'm being protected from employees who might be infected. And they have plexiglass, so I can't even come in contact. I use a contactless payment by scanning my app on my phone. The only danger I face is from someone who's sick, who's behind the counter, who's making my drink. But that's the danger I face every day, from influenza, from hepatitis, from all sorts of diseases from employees behind there. And it's up to the business to be responsible to maintain public health standards. And maintaining those public health standards will protect you against COVID-19 as well. Now, in the store itself, they made little lines. You walk down, you can't get within distance of people, and you have to stand in a holding area. There's no tables. So in Starbucks, when I wasn't required to wear a mask, I didn't wear a mask. And when people came in the store, I just stayed away from them a safe distance. Not because I feared them, but out of respect for their needs. But you should see the looks on people's face like, stop it. Stop it. That's shaming. That's stigma. First off, I'm not even required to wear a mask because of an underlying health condition. So I'm exempt because of a respiratory situation. But I'm not going to walk around and pull a piece of paper out going, see, I don't have to wear a mask because I can't breathe when I have it on. No, in fact, they're not even masks. I don't have access to N95 mask. I'm wearing a handkerchief over my face. So I appreciate what's happening in the payroll department there, Angela. I do hope that people would be more respectful and wear the face coverings that they're being advised or required to wear. I, out of caution, in a place where it's tight spaces, like a supermarket, I do wear that, even when it wasn't required. Even though I disagree with, I wore it for other people's concern. But I'm walking in the park and nobody's within 100 meters of me. I'm not wearing a mask. You're not going to catch it 100 meters away. It's impossible. It's scientifically impossible. So yeah, it's. But the thing is, ladies and gentlemen, is while it's dangerous, life is dangerous. I'm not trying to diminish what's going on with COVID-19, but I'm just talking about the reality of life here. Is that people need to realize life is dangerous. I saw when 7 pupils tested positive in schools, people want to shut the schools down again. Stop. Did you shut down clinics when 7 children were born HIV positive because their mothers had HIV? No, you didn't. Did you shut down clinics when all those kids went to school last year and passed around influenza and a number of them died as a consequence of influenza? No, you didn't. There needs to be some measured response and some reason and judgment to what's happening here. But simple precautions are not undue. People can take those precautions. But governments have misled us, lied to us, either because they didn't know and they're arrogant enough not to admit when they're wrong. It's very frustrating. So, Angela, I hope that people behave themselves. I take it you're wearing a mask based on your comment, and that's your prerogative, and you should. Nigel said I coughed right. Chris says, would you ever consider advertising products or services from South African companies for a fee? Sure, absolutely. If I got an audience, I can't promise an audience. Right now we have 58 people tuning in. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I've had as many as 300 people in a concurrent program. Now on videos, I have 25, 35,000 people watch some of my videos, 10,000, 12,000, also have 1,200. So until I get to a stage where I have a sufficient number of subscribers and viewing audience that I can say, well, consistently I can guarantee that you're going to get X number of viewers, I haven't considered that. But I would definitely consider doing that. In the meantime, I offer free advertising for South African businesses. I'm trying to promote businesses, all businesses in South Africa, but so far only minority businesses have reached out to me. So let me give you an example here. There you go, Impulse Graphics from Talon Bezuidenhout. There you go. This is a graphics business. Talon is involved in a lot of different business interests, but does fantastic work. For those of you who watch my videos regularly, you will see at the beginning of the hour, or beginning of the stream, I have an animation for Chris White Africa, and then I have a straight voltage animation at the end. Those were provided courtesy, gratis, free of charge from Talon, because he wanted to help my channel grow. So thank you so much for that, Talon. I really appreciate it. And this is a business. If you need help with graphic design, that's one place to check it out. I've also put other businesses up on here. So there's that one. I promote Giselle's music all the time, but right now I'm getting tired of getting copyright claims, so I backed off of playing her music for the moment. So also we promote Gerhard. Here, let me just take myself off the screen. Here's a free ad I'm going to put up here real quick from PPP.
Good day, guys. This is Gerhard Marie from ppdistributors.com. I'm the African division. We are inviting all COVID-19 manufacturers to come and list their product with us. Yes, that's right. For a very limited time, we are offering the spaces for Africa to be opened up to African businesses that are willing to list the product with us. As you know, PPE Distributors is selling verifiable PPE. Thus, we will assist you with wording, and where else we'll also provide you assistance with anything else. If you want to come in contact with us, just click on the WhatsApp link that you can find at ppedistributors.com. I thank you for your time and for watching this video. God bless, be safe, wear your mask and sanitize your hands. Also, ensure to keep your social distancing. Stay safe. Goodbye.
So there you go, folks. That's one example. I've done those a lot. I haven't done as many recently because the streams have been pretty busy, but I do try to do this and promote people and their business in South Africa. This was a service I was doing free of charge for lockdown because the government's draconian lockdown situation in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, in Botswana, initially in Namibia, which later eased up. But in those countries, the draconian lockdown standards, but especially in South Africa, were destroying people's jobs, their livelihoods, the companies going under. So I was doing what I could to help in a small way, and so I was offering free advertising on the channel. So that's kind of what's going on. let's see. Keith Alderson says the Marxist cartoon of South Africa might have suppressed certain news items. Oh, Marxist Canton. I'm sorry, Canton of South Africa. So I don't think there are any media covering events to protest the actions. Yeah, probably kind of like the Black Monday or Black Tuesday when folks protested farm orders plus mod a couple years ago. Yeah, that was barely covered in the news, and when it was covered, it was portrayed as a racist event when it was nothing at all like that. Marnus Botta says, I already got that. Sorry, I'm behind now. Good that you slept in, Chris. Thank you, Erica. Yeah, I needed the rest, actually. I need to catch up a little bit. Angela says, I wear a mask so that I protect my elderly mother. Well, that's very considerate of you, Angela. That's another consideration. If you have folks that you're in close contact with who are at risk, then it makes sense for you not to catch it, because a lot of people, as we know, about 80% of people are asymptomatic. They show no signs of the virus, and so you could be sick and not even know it because you're not exhibiting, but you can still transmit it. You become a vector. So that's a very considerate action on your part, Angela. That's great. Nigel said, I have to take my wife for her treatment on Wednesday, praying that we are sufficiently protected. Yeah, no, I would absolutely be frustrated if I was going to a clinic or hospital. I had to pay for my health insurance. Now that I'm no longer on active duty, I have to pay for health insurance. The government doesn't cover it anymore. It's a generous, reduced rate, but I still have to pay. So I made a payment after I retired in October from active service, and I have used that health care 0 times. Not a single time. So all that insurance money is paying for someone else's care. Now it's there if something happens to me, and that's the purpose of insurance, but I have not received any care. And I've had a few minor issues that I really needed care for, but I didn't go in because, yeah, I'm a soldier. I can tough it out. Or now that we've got COVID, I don't want to go there and catch COVID. so I've not gone to a clinic. Anyway, so let's see what else here. Margareta lost the signal in Nelsplit. Sorry to hear that. Probably the more they require masks. Whoops. Come on back here. What's this at? Got away from me there. I lost that. Somebody was saying something. Saw some videos today of old people being attacked by younger people for not wearing masks in the U.S. sick world. Indeed. Not just that, Willem. People are being attacked on the streets by these anarchists and insurrectionists who are being allowed to run riot in our cities, just beating stuff. I saw a video last week of an elderly woman who's knocked off her bicycle in Portland. I think it was it was in California, not Portland. And she was knocked over, and she was attacked. People were trying to rob her. So they ran off with her bag or something like that. An elderly white gentleman came over to help the lady up. And when he came over, people came back and started beating on him for helping the lady. He was beaten and chased in the streets by several people in their early 20s, obviously. Several cars stopped. People climbed out of their cars to walk over and kick this man who was in his 70s and beat him in the street. No law enforcement. Nobody intervened to protect this man. Eventually, some younger white lady got out of a car that was parked. She just parked and came over to try to fend people off. Not to start any racial disputes, but because most of these attacks I've seen have been committed by white people. But this was an attack that every single person that attacked this gentleman was black. No arrest. Nothing happening. It's out of control. It needs to end. Rudy says, runner quarantine, no symptoms for 2 weeks, last day. Well, congratulations, Rudy. That's fantastic. Glad you're coming out of quarantine. That can be very frustrating. I've known a few people who traveled between Europe and Africa and went into self-quarantine before lockdown standards were even put in place out of an abundance of caution, and it's a lonely time. So I'm glad you've made it okay. Garrett says, my kids will go back illegally if government closes down. They're there by SGB special request already. Sky Greg T says, I must say that wearing a mask while working in a hot loft is thoroughly miserable. Well, I agree. Try working on a farm wearing a mask, and if you're not around anybody, it's really not necessary there. Keith, there's a risk for vulnerable people, but no one has done the model for rapid versus slowed infection to check if mutation is something serious could be reduced through deliberate infection. You're talking about herd immunity, I think. Lynn's saying, hit the like button. Thank you. Angela says, do all the time, social distancing. The office is overrun with the virus. Prevention is in place. Arrogance the problem. Yeah, I can see that. Absolutely. Rudy says, my wife tested positive at work. I'm so sorry to hear that, Rudy. Wow, you guys in South Africa, it's going crazy. By the way, South Africa leads Africa. I wouldn't say congratulations because you lead Africa in COVID infections. South Africa has half of the infections, confirmed infections on the continent of Africa. Yikes. Bobby B says, if cloth masks worked, female Muslims who wear face coverings would have the lowest chance of contracting the virus, but the media says Muslims are among the most impacted, so I'm skeptical. There you go, Bobby. There's a little common sense applied there. Oops, who's that? Benjamin DeClerc says, hello. Welcome, Benjamin. Good to see you. Erica, SA Logic equals taxis transporting scholars are 100% full. Scholars sit 1.5 meters apart in school. Schools are closed when they... Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Erica. Exactly right. Stupidity. Absolutely. What did Bobby say was an interesting point? Oh, yeah. Sean Jeffries, do you suppose Trump's national security advisor knows the goings-on here in South Africa? I would sooner trust Trump to give Ramaphosa a hard time than Biden. Well, yeah, I think Trump will be more likely to give Ramaphosa a hard time. I think the bottom line, though, is that the world's attention is elsewhere. It's not on South Africa, and certainly not in the U.S. We have enough trouble with armed insurrection and domestic terrorist groups being allowed to run riot by mayors who are in collusion with these treasonous, sedition-laden, I'll stop at that. Profanity was coming to mind. But with these people, mayors and governors of states who are in cahoots with them. Marina says, what's the stats for people with hay fever to recover from COVID-19? When you say hay fever, do you mean allergies? I don't know that, but if you have allergies, that's an underlying immunocompromised system that puts you more at risk. So that's an issue. Stella's here. Stella's late. Well, it's okay, Stella. You don't have to be on time. You're welcome to pop in anytime. Some people just left. Well, farewell to the 4 people who just left. I don't know if it was load shedding, lack of interest in the topic, or maybe I was boring people or didn't like the conversation, but thank you for popping in and popping out. Welcome, Stella. Good to see you. Sloth Puppy says, if I wear a mask when arriving home, my dog wants to bite me until I take it off. Well, because he can't recognize you. That's why. Yeah, and also, like who said, Sean says you don't want to breathe in your own carbon dioxide. Agreed. Lynn had to cancel her admittance to a government hospital for hernia op. Yeah, she said, she mentioned that before. Sorry. Hey, Ranger Jakes, good to see you there. Keith, not so much herd immunity as getting the virus to burn out before serious mutation. Yeah, no, that's a good point, Keith. The longer it hangs around, the more likely viruses mutate all the time. This is one of the challenges with HIV, why it's been so difficult to eliminate HIV. Plus, it hides in the most odd places. Luke, the lead slinger, is back. Good to see you. Bobby B. Terrorists, people who riot, intimidate media to hide their crimes, are terrorists because they use violence, intimidation to push their politics. Agreed. Marius Krukamp, how are you, Colonel? Enjoying a big cup of coffee? No, it's not coffee. I don't drink coffee. No, this is iced tea. It's from Pure Leaf. There you go. There you go. Sorry, I got this camera's a little bit off there. There we go. Okay. Yep. It's sweet tea, and I just thought I'd drink that today instead of Starbucks. Try something a little bit different there. It's crazy what's going on. I see Dill de Blasio apparently has 27 cops on protection duty for him. Black Lives mural front of... Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Tanya Van Deventer, welcome. How can we reel up herd immunity if we keep wearing masks? Exactly right. Well, and keep sanitizing everything. Eric, you make a good point. One of the arguments, now it's not been proven and studies have been done on it, but one of the arguments about why so many people have allergies these days, kids have issues and we have ear infections, but more importantly, respiratory illnesses, is because people are hypersensitive about wiping down their countertops in modern societies and their desk and everything, and always clean. Kids don't get exposed to pathogens and they don't build up natural immunity as a consequence of it. That's a true story. Similar situation with malaria. In parts of Africa where malaria is endemic and people hand out free bed nets, kids don't get exposed to malaria if they're not getting bit by mosquitoes at night, and then they grow up, they don't have the natural immunity they develop from repeated infections, and they become young adults and highly susceptible. They leave home, go to school, they have their education, parents support all their resources into getting this kid educated for payback, to get something back out of that education. Then the kid contracts malaria because they've never developed any natural immunity, dies at 19 or 21 years of age. Anyway, it's, infectious disease is something. Kids don't play in the mud anymore either. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, gosh, that's true. Jonathan Herman, welcome. Good to see you there. All right, well, let me put some of the news up here. Let me find this very quickly, make sure this thing is still working here. That's not the one I'm looking for. Sorry, I've got multiple browsers here again. I cleaned up my browsers today, but there we go. All right, this one was acting up. So I'm going to share this first one with you here. See what you guys think of this. All right, so there we go. Right, Afro-Indigenous non-binary local organizer calls for the abolition of the United States as we know it. The Portland, Oregon crowd cheered the thought of tearing down the United States. It's a rally outside the Mark Hatfield Courthouse on Friday, which marked the 50th day of protest in Portland. One of the speakers at the event was Lilith Sinclair, a self-described Afro-Indigenous non-binary local organizer. During her speech, she called for the abolition of the United States as we know it. Yes. She said that Portland was stolen land and instructed the crowd to carry out land acknowledgement. Sinclair labels herself as Black and Indigenous, queer, non-binary, femme sex worker. She also identifies as AFAB, which stands for Assigned Female at Birth. In an interview published last month, she talked about global uprising. Global uprising, that's sedition, ladies and gentlemen. Why are people like this not in prison? Why are they not arrested for their nonsense? Anyway, absolutely crazy stuff. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Fascinating stuff. What do you think about that one, huh? Yeah, so I wrote a few things about this already. Yeah, I sure did. Let me see what I put. Let me see what I wrote down on this. I've already posted this on Parler, on LinkedIn, and also on Twitter. So I said, sedition, insurrection, treason. These are the words that we should be seeing daily in newspapers and on cable news. Those headlines should be followed up by video footage of perp walks to show us that the officials elected to ensure domestic tranquility are actually earning their paychecks and not abrogating their oaths. Alas, we don't see these things. The Republic is under assault by elected politicians on both sides of the aisle, but mostly Democrats. The media, corporate America, Manchurian arrivals, malcontents who grew up too comfortable and wealthy to know what suffering is, armed insurrectionists, and domestic terror groups. Will someone, anyone in office other than Donald Trump, stand up for the Republic? And sadly, ladies and gentlemen, I think the answer at the moment is no. No one will stand up for the Republic who's in elected office other than Donald Trump. And when he does stand up, as I predicted, he would be attacked as a totalitarian, as a police state, which is utter nonsense. I saw a report from a well-respected national commentator that came out yesterday complaining about Donald Trump using the Department of Homeland Security to arrest people involved in terrorist acts in Portland. And so they said this is a big campaign using the ICE to intimidate and arrest people. It's unlawful. It's unconstitutional. Wrong, wrong, wrong. And oh, by the way, they talked about, they made it look as if it was the military. It's not the military. It's actually DHS, not the military. But, the military can be used for that. Those of us in government who serve in government take an oath to support and defend the U.S. Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. This country started out in its early history with a problem. In the western part of Pennsylvania, just a few hours that direction from here, when George Washington was our first president, people were not happy because the state of Pennsylvania and others the government imposed a tax on whiskey. So people were distilling whiskey out there and accustomed to being independent and not dealing with others and government intrusion in their affairs, started a rebellion. They went after local tax collectors, attacked them, and they weren't happy. So the government raised the army. President George Washington, in the only instance of the commander-in-chief actually being the commander-in-chief in the field in our entire history, came to Carlisle, Pennsylvania, where the Army Marshal marched to western Pennsylvania and put down an armed insurrection. We have an armed insurrection taking place now. In 1992, then Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Colin Powell, ordered U.S. military active duty forces into Los Angeles to support the Los Angeles Police Department and the L.A. County Sheriff to put down riots, insurrection in the streets of Los Angeles. Now, Colin Powell recently, famously, a month ago, came out and said that Trump was overstepping, doing things unconstitutional, before he'd ever sent a single federal troop anywhere. Yet Colin Powell can do it when L.A. is burning in 1992 as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. But Donald Trump mentions the thought of it, following the law, and he's attacked. Yeah, Colin Powell, you have degraded your reputation yet again. It started when you're Secretary of State and you're backtracking and fibbing about the position and what you decided there and how you were involved in what decisions were reached to go into Iraq, and now you've degraded even further. So sad. Someone I looked up to when I was a young officer, and I thought sought to emulate his position, his role, but no, disappointed in that man. Let me catch up in the chat. I'm a little bit behind now. The Wizard just popped in and said hi. Well, hi, Wizard. If you haven't left yet, Peter from Vite, good to see you there. Okay, what else we got here? Sloth Puppy's there. If they so hate the USA, I'll take their place. Yeah. And we'll happily give them to the ANC, Sloth Puppy. Off with their head. Yeah, maybe they need to come back to their roots. They so miss USA. Exactly. Maria says, good idea to close schools so children drink sanitizer with a piece of lemon and no teachers to take what? Gray cell matter replant, free ticket to Mars. There you go. Saw that video. Ah, yeah, I know. Yeah, it's crazy. Patrick Vianella, good to see you again. During these crazy woke left times, we never hear about the true Native American rights. It shows hypocrisy from the woke left, just BLM all the time. Exactly. And then you see people who suddenly are black, like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, black like me. Last week she's Hispanic white. Now she's black because it's cool. Please, shut up. Sec, go away. Willem Janssen von Rensburg says Trump will be attacked from all sides and will escalate. We get near November. The election results is already disputed. Of course, they're already lying about it. It's funny. Remember, they said that when Trump loses in 2016, he'll never accept it. He'll cause problems. Trump won. Who never accepted the election results? Hillary Clinton. She still doesn't accept it in her deluded mental state. Her declining deluded mental state. Hey, Casper van der Westhuizen, welcome back. Rob McLaren, welcome. And Rob, I haven't seen you in a while because I remember when I see McLaren, I always think of the race cars. Fake mainstream media. SABC, yeah, SABC is definitely bought. They're all bought. It's really sad. CNN never accepted. Oh, there you go. That's right. All right, let me get back to the news and point out a few other things. So we've got the woke story, right? I already showed you that one. Let's bring this back. So there's the woke story. Now let's. This is a really good story, ladies and gentlemen. Let me put this link in here. This is in Al Jazeera. Now, Al Jazeera has its challenges as a media outlet, but I will tell you, and I've said this before, that when it comes to reporting on Africa, Al Jazeera does a pretty good job. Mostly objective most of the time. This is a fantastic story written by a young man who's a PhD candidate, Edwin Makwati, from Botswana, talking about the internet, poverty, and access to the internet in Botswana, and by general extension, Africa. Really good stuff. Lockdown between poverty and internet deprivation in Botswana. In the village of Hohobanyo in rural Botswana, students struggle to keep up with demands of modern education. And it hasn't changed much since he was a kid. Now, while I speak favorably of Botswana all the time on this channel and in my prepared videos, I always do point out the fact that nearly half the country still lives in abject poverty, despite almost 6 decades of economic advancement and growth. And there is still about 45% of all Botswana live in abject poverty, living on $2.60 a day or less. Now, that is ameliorated in many respects because the government provides boreholes and clinics and access to some health services and education. So that does make it a little bit better, but many people live in severe poverty. And in this case, he's talking about it costs $79 a month for access to the internet where he's at, and almost nobody has that money. So it creates a divided society because people can't access the internet. Fair point. Really good article. You should check it out. Good stuff. Really, really good stuff. Hendo says Al Jazeera English is good. Yeah, as long as it's not talking about the Middle East or the United States, I'll buy that. When they talk about the United States and the Middle East, the bias creeps right in there. When it comes to Africa, pretty good stuff. We don't smoke marijuana in Muskogee. We don't get our trips on LSD. It's good. Please hit the like button. Mark, Bobby, if black people, minorities in America were oppressed like AOC and Sean King would identify as white, not black, but being a minority in the USA is where the actual social privilege is. In some respects, that's true, particularly for employment in government and access to government aid when it comes to buying a home. Definitely the case. ENCA couldn't even make mention of marches in Cape Town, Pretoria yesterday. That's how fake they are. True. Adrian Bassam, don't get started on that guy. Good evening, Colonel. What's your opinion regarding Robert McBride? Robert McBride. I'm drawing a blank on that, Doc Breaker. I'm going to have to check and see who you're talking about. Help me out on that one. Okay, so Morton says, I see African Americans claim they sailed to Columbus, the U.S. before Columbus. Not true, but anyway, they just lost the slavery argument then. Yeah, well, absolutely. They don't see the stupidity and the irony. If you claim that you got here before that, then obviously you weren't brought here in shades. No, it's anyway. Give me a second here. I just got to take a drink. So let me share with you guys. This is a mess. I'm gonna go back drinking Starbucks. They're not nearly as messy, but let me go. I just drink straight out of the bottle. I was just trying to promote the U.S. Army War College with my expensive mug there. I think it's like $25. I think I paid for it. But let me tell you this. Okay, I think I've shared this with some of you before, but for those who are new or those who never heard this story, let me share this. I went to public school, not a product of any prep school or any Catholic school or anything like that. All public schools, my entire education, including university, state schools. So when I was in high school, we were taught that 50 million Africans were brought in bondage to America. as slaves. Now, at the age of 14, 15, 16, didn't know better, didn't question that. I was like, wow, that's terrible. Later, I discovered, in fact, that figure is overinflated, and the figure was not to America or the United States, what became the United States, but to the Americas. When I started doing research and learning about the slave trade on my own, and then when I went to university and talked about it again at university, I quickly come to realize that the public education system was distorting the truth. Now, any person in bondage is wrong. It's a terrible thing. But when you lie to shame or to shock people, you create a false narrative and you distort historical outcomes. So let me talk about this. It wasn't 50 million people. The odds are it was more like 10 to 20, maybe 25 million, probably. It was probably 10 to 15 million is the actual figure we have based on historical documentation. And by the way, the documentation is quite pervasive, and there's a lot of it to cover ships and their loads of cargo, of slaves and such. Now, here's also the reality. Virtually all of those people who were brought into slavery in the Americas were taken to the Caribbean Basin or Brazil, not to the United States. Perhaps as many as 300,000 people were brought as slaves to the United States. That's terrible. But we're also talking about a period of transport of people brought here in slavery, 200 years, 190 years. From 1619, when the first slaves were delivered in Jamestown, which they didn't even ask for. Ships showed up with slaves. You want to buy them? And they bought them. 1619, the slave trade was banned in the United States in 1807, in effect in 1808. So just under 200 years, 300,000 people. Do the math, folks. Do the math. That's not 50 million. Now, all that's wrong. So the vast majority of African Americans, black Americans who live in this country who are not recent African immigrants, descend from 300,000 Africans plus the Europeans they mix with. And oh yeah, there was a lot of mixing going on, ladies and gentlemen. Just like in the Afrikaans speaking community, a lot of mixing going on. And no, it wasn't all from positions of power where, powerful white men were exploiting, disadvantaged black women. That was part of it, but that wasn't the only situation. Anyway, so when you distort things, you lie to people, you diminish the argument. Now, the argument about slavery conveniently forgets the entire history of humankind, as if slavery was invented by Europeans in the 16th century. It was not, or 17th century. It was not. Slavery existed long before that. The Romans had slaves, the Egyptians had slaves, Africans had slaves for millennia. In fact, it was Africans who sold the slaves to European slave traders. Yeah, but we forget about all that. And we hear lies about the United States, how it was founded on slavery. Not true. And yada, yada, yada. Untrue. All untrue. It really is annoying, and when people learn history incorrectly, then they have the wrong worldview because they're wrong. Robert McBride is the Durban bomber who's been appointed as... Oh, no, I'm going to have to look into that. Okay, no, I don't have an opinion on it right now. I'll check into it. Bobby B says 300. I thought it was 800, but nothing compared to tens of millions we're taught. Yeah, it was 300,000, Bobby. That's the correct number. By the way, also, this is downplayed in history, too. And because I don't usually like to do this because it sounds like I'm trying to make moral equivalency. I'm not trying to make moral equivalency. What I'm trying to do is tell the full story. By the way, the British raided the coast of Ireland for the better part of 2 centuries, starting with Oliver Cromwell in the 1640s. And over a century, not 2 centuries, 1 century, excuse me. Over the course of 1 century, they raided Ireland. And they captured boys and girls, young men and women, put them on ships and shipped them to the Caribbean, places like Barbados and the Bahamas. And they were enslaved on sugar plantations, among other things. I didn't say indentured servants, I said slaves. True story. Covered up entirely by the academic world. Absolutely true. Records, ship records, the deliveries, the sale of Irish, the edict from the governor of, I think it was the Bahamas. No, it wasn't the Bahamas. It was, edict of the governor of one of the islands, an English governor, telling his slave owners on the island that they could not breed their young Irish girls with African slaves. Because he cared about Irish girls or African slaves? No. Because it was undermining the slave trade from which he was getting a cut. So every time that the 13-year-old Irish girls were bedded by Africans and had mixed-race kids, the status of children of slaves, the child always gets the status of the mother. So if the mother's free and the father's a slave, the child is free, which is rare. But anyway, so the point is, yeah, but they don't talk about that. That's inconvenient truth. Or the fact that the Barbary pirates enslaved people all the way up until the 20th century, capturing people as far afield as Iceland, landing in Iceland and capturing Icelandic citizens and taking them to Algeria and to Tunis and enslaving them as concubines, as physical labor, and as courtiers and such. Absolutely true. Absolutely true. Internet's slow again. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Big Daddy Levy spoke to the project. Oh, really? Cool. I hope somebody got some video. That would be awesome to see that if Big Daddy Levy spoke there. Less than 1 million. Yeah, Bobby B, it was 300,000 over the course of 2 centuries. Sounds like you're talking about the 1619 project, which is selling their history America to advance the narrative. I wasn't talking about the 1619 project, but yeah, I guess so, Sean, that they're lying about America and its history. P&R von Vijk, Naspers is part of New World Order propaganda machine. The former CEO's farm is called Babylon Store, Tower of Babylon. Yikes. Oh, gosh bless it. My chat's getting away from me again, guys. Sorry. How 10 gangsters. Yeah, most African Americans today are what we would call colored. Yeah, Morton, that is true. The average African American has over 50% DNA that's European, not African. Anyway, so why do you refer to African American blacks as African American? I don't. I usually say black. It's Robin. This is for the sake of a intellectual art discussion here. I say black Americans. I don't say African Americans. I think it's horse shit. I'm not a German American. I'm an American. I'm not a white American. I'm an American. And so I don't believe it. Arabs had over 1.5 million Roman slaves. Yeah, that's true too. Arabs raided Ireland. Okay, I'm catching up in the chat. I already said these things, so you guys don't think I'm stealing your thunder. I'm not. In South Africa, the Dutch lords had families. The matriarchal slave women married them. Thus, the first Schneider born in South Africa became Stayman, and there are thousands similar. True. Standard practice of governments manipulate educational systems to rewrite history. That's true. Even U.S. citizens are snapped off ships by our products. That's true, actually. That's the whole reason why the Marines went to North Africa. You know, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli. There's a reason for that. Yeah, I know it's disconnected.
No, you're on here.
Am I? All right. Am I there, folks? You got me? Give me a thumbs up if you guys can see me. It said my stream disconnected. That was really weird. No voice. I have no voice right now. Let me see. Let's see what's going on here. You're back. Okay. All good. Wizard says all good. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what happened there, guys. I didn't get disconnected. That was really strange. I thought the red ad struck again. Gosh, thank you so much for that. Wow. Okay, you can hear me. Everything's fine. All right. Well, the internet. Maybe I said the wrong thing. Maybe the National Security Agency has been checking into my stream, and I've said the wrong thing. So right now I'm choking up. I'm laughing here. I used to work at the National Security Agency. All right. Yeah, standard practice, U.S. citizens. Yeah, so that's what I was saying. So we got engaged. I was talking about the Marines. So the Marine anthem is from the halls of Montezuma, which is in Mexico, to the shores of Tripoli. We will fight our country's battles. The reason that's in there is because one of the first actions for the U.S. Marines was to be sent to North Africa because they were taking American sailors and attacking American ships and imprisoning them as slaves, either as workers on the ships or putting them as slaves proper on land. So a lot of Americans were snatched by the Barbary pirates, and that's why the U.S. went there and dealt with it. Absolutely true. So yeah, no, it's just this whole argument about slavery. People just dishonest. They lie. Stream cut off. I'll be right back. I'm here. Big Daddy. Ooh, there we go. Okay. Open link in your tab. Thank you for that, Hendo. Appreciate it. Can see and hear good. Okay, you guys. And Nigel again. Okay, cool beans. Thanks for sharing that, guys. That's awesome. The Big Daddy Liberty was there. I'm glad to hear that. Really cool stuff. He's a hard guy to reach. I guess if you go to the protest, you could have found him. Anyway, yeah. So let me. Oh, wow. Let me see that. Huh. Oh, he's got a video on it. Cool. Okay. Let me do that. Paste and go. Okay. Let me get rid of this. Okay. Wow, that's pretty cool. Deep State's running the internet. Yeah, I think so. I think that's part of the problem here. Okay. Marmaduke swords derives. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. The swords the Marines have. Yep. McBride has started spying. Hey, Brett, welcome. Good to see you there. Well received by all the commies are onto us. They are, Tunes. The commies have figured out, and they've tried to interrupt the stream. Actually, what it is, it's kind of like when the Soviets go into the deep sea and they would stick a cable into the transatlantic cables to spy on telecommunications between Europe and the U.S. and Canada. That's what's going on. the deep state reached into the stream and they disrupted it because they were careless. So now we're on to you, deep staters. What's my favorite African country to visit? Brett, that's easy. South Africa. What's my favorite African country to live? Thus far, it's been Botswana. What's my least favorite country to visit? I'll be honest with you. At the time, it was Ethiopia. But when I was in Ethiopia, it was still a police state. Now it's changed dramatically because of Abiy. And I think Ethiopia would be a cool place to go to now. Let's see. Casper was part of... You were there, Casper. You were in well, that's awesome. Cool. How'd it go? Did you have an ask, Casper? You don't have to answer that question. Africa is being brought up by China. What can we do about it? What do you mean? Oh, bought up by China. Not a lot we can do about it. If Africans want to be stupid and sell their land to Chinese, that's up to them. And of course, they can also nationalize the land whenever they want. They've pulled that stunt before, many African countries. I've never understood why Americans like to class themselves as where their ancestors arrived from generations before. Gareth, let me explain. On the issue of black Americans and the term African American, it grew as a consequence of people not liking terms they consider derogatory. So as you remember that the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, the NAACP, which is a civic organization focused on education and often improving the lives of African Americans or black Americans, that term colored was the de facto normal term that was applied to blacks in this country at the time. People weren't called black, they were called colored. It fell out of disfavor because the term was considered derogatory at some point. And so if you say colored in the United States today, people look at you like, aghast, like you're some 1960s, Bull Connor, racist, beat blacks up in the street sort of thing. And then in the 60s, African American or Afro-American became the thing because of a black pride sort of thing, similar to Steve Biko, but not quite the same. And so it became a term that was accepted as a popular term. At some point, a lot of people, the number of people that fell out of disfavor with, people just started saying black Americans. And I've stuck with black Americans. I'm not changing. I don't really care for the term African Americans. But the problem is that when you say the context, you have to be careful because people are triggered so easily. So for instance, if I were to say that blacks are more likely, blacks, no. So I have to always make sure that I say things like black Americans to make sure people are clear what I'm talking about. And I make a distinction. Now I also use the term African American in the context, the following context. I make a clear distinction between African American or historic black Americans and recent African immigrants. Because listen, I'll tell you, the few million, 2-3 million black African immigrants who've come to the United States since the early 1990s, by and large have done very well. Despite the systemic racism and the horrible country that America is, almost every black African that I know, whether they're Ghanaian or they're Sudanese or even Somali, Ethiopian, Ghanaian, even South Africans, doesn't matter where they come from. They've all done well. They've all succeeded. There are exceptions. Not everyone does well. But those are the kind of immigrants that we've wanted here. People who are hungry to improve their station in life, who want to contribute and want to make their way in life, who value liberty and have faith of one sort or another, whether it's Islam, Judaism, Christianity, who cares? Those are the sort of people we want in our country. And they've done well. And to listen to black Africans who live here now be lectured to by a historic black American community, which is burdened, not entirely, but overwhelmingly by this culture of victimization, which is propagated by leaders in the so-called black community, there's a clear distinction there. And if there was systemic racism, then no black African immigrants who came here the last 30 years would be anything other than living in poverty and be denied education and not be lawyers, doctors, financiers, heads of corporations, managers at Home Depot, running Arby's. None of that would happen. But it does happen because all the rest of it is lies. And that's the bottom line. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Right. Deborah Ells. I don't know who Deborah Ells is. Okay, I'll have to check her out. If you have contact for Deborah Ells Hendo, please share it. And I will try to find out if that's an appropriate guest on my channel. Thank you. Linda's here. Linda van der Wood. Good to see you. Pinar says BDL is een paar kakken achter maar he praat slecht zin. Okay. No cables, it's wireless. Well, that was the problem I had too, is I was using my stream wireless for a long time and the router kept disconnecting. We thought it was the red ants. So we sorted that out. Say color in the USA and get shot. I don't know if you get shot. You might get shot these days, but that's why I always make the distinction when I'm in the US. If you watch that video where I talked to the Great Decisions lecture, I made a very clear point of telling people that, listen, folks, When I say Ronnie Verhoeven is just subscribed, thank you so much for subscribing, Ronnie. I always make the point when I'm talking about South Africa to point out two things. Whenever I talk about descriptions of South Africa, I say white, black, colored, or Indian, or Asian, synonymous. They're not quite the same, but anyway. I always use capital letters because that's a historic distinction, because that's how groups were identified. And many groups still self-identify as that. Now, I don't use that in the American context. When I say white Americans, that's an adjective. When I say black Americans, that's an adjective. I don't use a capital letter, although the press has started distorting English language here by making black capitalized and leaving white lowercase. You know what I got for them? There's a finger in here in the middle that's for them, acting like children. It's disgusting. Anyway, so I make that distinction. I also, when I talk about South Africa, I talk about colors, and I say that it's a term that people who are colored accept, and many are proud of being colored. It's part of their heritage. It's not a derogatory term in South Africa, whereas it is here to some people in the States. So you have to let people know that. Linda, Nigel, quarter Irish, 1/4 French, 50%, okay. Nobody says anything about the Chinese Oranje east of PTA. Well, the Chinese are all over Africa in self-isolated enclaves. The Brew is here. Welcome, The Brew. Good to see you. Toon says The Brew. Lekker. Yeah, no one talks about Chinese who self-isolate all over Africa. I've been talking about it for decades. You can go to places all over Africa, particularly in Zambia and other places, and you find enclaves of ethnic Chinese who don't associate with black Africans, who don't marry black Africans, who don't marry white Africans or Arabs. They work together, they live together, they buy their own things, they take their money and expatriate it back to China. That's not part of Africa, and it's all over. Brett says African immigrants to America are much less likely to be anti-white than many black Americans. You know, absolutely true. Because they haven't been polluted by the culture of victimization. Now, what I'll get most often when I talk about that is, oh, so we should ignore the past. No, you don't ignore the past. For the same reason you don't tear down monuments and statues and burn books. What kind of idiotic, fanatical moron suggests any of that to be appropriate? It's not. It's not. It's ridiculous. Taliban blowing up Buddha statues? Idiots. Black Lives Matter tearing down statues of Frederick Douglass? Idiots. Black Lives Matter tearing down statues of Confederate generals? Idiots. It's part of our history. Suck it up and live with it. You don't like the narrative? Then create your own heroes today. Create our new heroes today. That's what you do. That's how it works. Errol says we have to make a choice now. Either we live free or you die as a slave. Yeah, that's right. She's on Loving Life, Deborah Ells. Okay. All right. Most Africans outside South Africa are not anti-white and critical of that ideology here. How are so many Africans like that despite colonization? Well, because the colonization thing is something that plays in the minds of African intellectuals. It's their way of announcing themselves, of making themselves known, of complaining, and also blaming others for the failures of African governance. Ladies and gentlemen, the colonial period, with the exception of Namibia and South Africa, if you want to consider South Africa colonial until 1994, we can have an esoteric debate about whether it was or wasn't, but let's just accept 94 as the new dispensation and say that's the end of the colonial period. All right? Although I think it ended in 1910, but that's another story. So let's go with 1994. So with the exception of South Africa and Namibia, which were in the late 80s and early 90s, Africa has been free. Starting in 1957 with the Black Star Republic of Ghana, African countries have been free. People have governed Africa on their own for 6 decades. African intellectuals continue to blame colonialism for their own failures. The ANC, your president in South Africa, Cyril Ramaphosa, saying that, well, our economy is colonialist and racist. The same economy that got $450 million handed to him out of, and that's why he's uber wealthy. Yeah, and he makes that claim. Yeah, that's an excuse for the failed macroeconomic policies of the ANC and for their corruption, their graft, their theft, their incompetence. That's an excuse, and that happens all over the country. The people coming to America, by and large, aren't many of those people because they've got theirs. They deny everyone else getting theirs across the continent. The people coming to America who immigrate here want to come to America. They want to be part of, or the UK. Now, some in the UK grouse and moan, but very few in the US come here and complain. Colonialism doesn't play a role. We weren't a colonial power. Yeah, I know, the Philippines and Puerto Rico and Guam, yeah, Marshall Islands, please, go away. We weren't a colonial power. We weren't an empire. People still have that argument today. What's this? Blues Pixies here. Okay, I didn't see Blues Pixie. Any opinion on the Q movement? Not at the moment, Willem. I'm not familiar with it. Sorry. South Peel. Okay, nice necklace. I'm South African, shot and shielded. Okay, Joe, I'm not sure what that means. That sounds scary. Should we watch the Big Daddy Liberty? Should I play his video on here now? Anybody get mad if I did that? Here's the problem in South Africa. Let me tell you about this very quickly. Let me find this. I want to find this very quickly. This is something I've been railing about for over 25 years, ladies and gentlemen. Here you go. You ready for this? Okay, so if you want to have me play the Big Daddy Liberty stream on here, just say so and I'll play it. We're at 1 hour. By the way, folks, thanks for tuning in on this lovely Sunday. This is Chris White Africa on the Indaba Africa channel here on YouTube. Despite the red ants and or some deep staters trying to stop our stream, we managed to continue and we're still going 1 hour into it on a lovely Sunday. Thank you for tuning in. Dumela Botswana, Sawubona South Africa, Goeiedag, Otsihilijan. Jennifer Lopes has just subscribed. Galabo. Jennifer Galabo. Thank you so much for becoming a subscriber to Chris White Africa. Please play it, please play it. Okay, I'll play it if I get some more. I need more than just 2 people say it. So, yes, play it. Okay, so Tanya says, I'm going to talk about this first. This is a serious problem in South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, when you have monopolies or oligarchies that control a sector of the economy, it gives distorted outcomes. Let me explain this. South Africa traditionally, I don't know the current rate, but say for the last 20 years, whenever you use a credit card to pay, banks are charging the merchant 5% for every transaction. That's why a lot of places you go, people are like, hey, do you have cash? You have cash or a debit card? Because they don't charge that on a debit card. But on a credit card, they charge the merchant 5%. So they lose 5%. In a low margin business like a supermarket, that is a tremendous impact. Because some supermarkets, the margin is 3, 4, 5, maybe 6%. So much of the profit disappears when you use a credit card simply because they have to pay the bank for that. Good deal for the bank, lousy for the consumer, lousy for the merchant, because it means merchants have to raise prices in order to break even, and the banks make all the profit. 5% of every transaction is criminal. It's not as bad as Western Union or MoneyGram, which makes 12% on every transaction, but it's still shameful. So the reason that happens, and the reason you have to pay for bank accounts in South Africa is for the following reason. Here you go, ladies and gentlemen. South Africa's banking sector is dominated by 5 names who control almost 90% of all assets in South Africa. This is something I've read about for years. I might make a video on this one. So here you go. Total banking sector assets in March of 2019-2020. You can see that 89% owned by the 5 largest banks. That's the bottom one here. And let's go down here. Who are the 5 banks? Standard Bank, First Rand, ABSA, or Ally Bank South Africa, Nedbank, and Investec. And here you go. Market share. So Capitec is on here at 2%, but everyone else, you put them in there. 90% of the assets in banks are held by 5 banks. When 5 banks control everything, they can collude with each other about what rates will be set, what interest rates will be shared, what they charge for banking services. That way, they can all share in the spoils of the banking industry. Now, that's deleterious to your wealth and your prosperity. Let me explain. In the early 1990s here in the United States, we had over 40,000 individual banks in the United States. 40,000. Today, we have something like 7,000 or 8,000. Now, why did that happen? Because the federal government eased banking merger restrictions, which prevented banks from merging for a long time because of the Great Depression. They put in these safety brakes. They removed those and allowed banks to keep buying up other banks. So banks like Bank One, which I was an investor in 30 years ago and still am today, now it's JP Morgan, bought out all local banks. And suddenly they were the only bank around in some communities. And then they bought out First Chicago, and they became part of that. They moved their headquarters to Chicago. It was still Bank One. Then they bought JP Morgan, moved their headquarters to New York, and now they're JP Morgan. Bank of America did the same thing, snatching up banks all over the country. So we went from 40,000, I think it's 46,000 banks 30 years ago to less than 10,000 today. The fewer banks there are, the fewer opportunities you have to get a good deal because there's less competition and more collusion. And this is a problem in South Africa's economy. Are there any ANC members on those banking boards? Yes, there are, Heinrich. Of course there are. Absolutely. Whose character assassination? Let me catch up here. Don't hype BDL too much. He's going to lose credibility with black people like you're not to be called Uncle Tom, but it's already happening. Well, those are not people that you can convert or you can get to come to your side if that's their reaction. They're not very well educated and they're also not very honest. So that's going to happen anyway. People like free money. Your thoughts on economist Thomas Sowell? Oh, Thomas Sowell is brilliant. He's one of the best economists we've ever had. By the way, he's black. For those who don't know, Thomas Sowell. He has amazing thoughts on capitalism. He also has amazing thoughts on race and society. Unfortunately, he's elderly at this stage. He was just on TV the other day, I think on CNBC or somewhere like that. He's brilliant. Thomas Sowell is a brilliant man. He's had great things. If he were white and or Jewish in America, his name would have been plastered all over the place over the decades, instead of being only marginally mentioned. He's a brilliant economist, smart guy. So, okay, I'm going to go ahead and play the video because people said let's play the video, but I want to make sure I can hear it so we don't lose, see if the red ants come back on the channel. So let me do this very quickly. All right. So by the way, folks, that's the first time ever when I had my stream disconnected that it reconnected on its own. That was kind of interesting. That doesn't usually happen. So that was kind of cool, but I want to make sure I can hear this too. Hang on a second here. Where's it at? I gotta get back. Sorry guys, just trying to make sure I got this right so I can hear this stream myself. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and play the Big Daddy Liberty video so you guys can hear that. All right, so give me just a second here. Take myself off the screen and get Big Daddy Liberty back up there. Here you go. Hopefully he won't be angry at me using his video. We'll see. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Turn myself off.
Guys, first of all, welcome everybody to this wonderful, wonderful protest. It is so good to see fellow South Africans actually standing up for something. We cannot continue, and I must say this, we cannot continue allowing politicians in this country to essentially stand for our quality of life. There is a big fight to be had. There is a big battle to be waged. Black, white, colored South Africans, it is irrelevant. You are all South Africans, and I must remind us of this because in this country, it is politicians who try and divide us. In this country, we have politicians who are dead set on breaking us up and basically seeing a degradation, of our quality of life. We must say enough, enough. So I can tell you right now, we have just driven in from Johannesburg right now. I just arrived right now. And I must say this because I can feel the emotion. I am so proud to see every single South African here.
Amen.
Amen.
Enough is enough.
I am so proud to see South Africans standing up for our farming community in this country. I am so proud to see South Africans standing up for families in this country. As I always say, this country is a country of faith, our love of flag, our love of family, and our call for freedom. So with those few words, I can just say to you guys, thank you so much for standing as the South Africans you are. But it should not end here. There is a big battle, as I say, that needs to be waged. Every single one of you here, from the faces, the families I see, the individuals, guys, we need to start getting this message out into every single community. We have to move beyond the social media. We have to move beyond these protests, and we need to take South Africans by the hand and say, you know what, we can push back. This is our country, damn it. So as a final word, I'll say this. Let it not end here. South Africans, we are not different races, we're not different genders. Any of these things the politicians used to divide us, we are not that. We are a God-fearing, law-abiding, and family-oriented South Africans. It is time for those South Africans to stand for your freedom. It is time for us to draw the line in the sand and say enough is enough. We are fight for our freedom.
Well, there you go, guys. As requested, I put Big Daddy Liberty on. Hopefully, I won't get a copyright complaint about that. We'll see. Anyway, so yeah, that's pretty interesting. Okay, but I will say this: Big Daddy Liberty was on my channel. We did a stream a few weeks back, and he was better on my channel. So go check it out. Go check it out. Check out Big Daddy Liberty here on Chris White Africa. I think we had a fantastic stream that day. It was really good. I think 2,600, almost 3,000 people watched that stream now, so really cool. So check it out. Yeah, Big Daddy Liberty. Awesome. But yeah, see some of the comments here. If someone who's white said that, they'd be attacked. You're absolutely right. But you know what? Still stand up for yourself. Don't let people call you names. If you know who you are in your heart, you know who you are, then let it bounce off you. It's difficult, but let it bounce off you. Brett says, does true democracy exist anywhere in Africa? Many people in Zimbabwe did not believe that Mugabe was legally elected all those years. Well, yeah. First off, Emerson Mnangagwa was not even a legitimate candidate. He was installed illegally as the president of Zimbabwe. Emerson Mnangagwa fled Zimbabwe after he claimed that he was poisoned at a local county fair and took refuge in South Africa. He abandoned his position as the vice president of Zimbabwe and was legally removed from that position as a consequence of that. When Constantine Chiwenga and the Zimbabwe Defense Force, after a visit to China, on his way back from Beijing, authorized the coup against Robert Mugabe, they brought Emerson Mnangagwa back and installed him as president, which is illegal. It was extra illegal. So he never should have been president. That's criminal. That's not, I know the Zimbabwe Constitution. I've read it. That's not allowed under Zimbabwe's Constitution. So that's true. Now, Mugabe stole the 2008 elections. He stole the 2000 elections, at least 2 clearly stolen elections, even lost an election and refused to leave office. Yeah. Are there true democracies in South Africa? Absolutely. In Africa, yes. Botswana is a true democracy. Namibia is a true democracy. Mauritius is a true democracy. Tanzania is a true democracy. Absolutely. But is democracy the right answer for countries? Good question. Anyway, yes, there are true. Whoa, the brew has got like 1,000 comments in here. What's going on, brew? Did you crack open a six-pack or something there? Okay. Thank you, Hendo, for that connection, that link. I appreciate it. Is this guy going to be crucified for telling the truth? People are already attacking him. They've been attacking him for a long time. So Tanya says, thanks. You're welcome. He's got your support. Sile is like a young Dr. Buthelezi who was rejected by the deep state in favor of Mandela. True. Many people in the DRC believe that democracy never truly came to Congo. Yeah, it never did. And it's still out there today. Elections are a joke there. Erica, you're 4 feet 11 inches? Wow. Man. Oh, Big Daddy Liberty's channel link. Okay, well, let me get there. Big Daddy Liberty, I'll do that. All right. This is not the correct one, but this will work. This will get you there. I mean, it's correct to get you a link, but usually it's users and his name. I don't have time to look that up right now, so there you go. That's Big Daddy Liberty's link. So, Casper, let's see. Good evening, everyone. Hey, Robin, good to see you there. You're just tuning in. Welcome. That's why I mentioned the bad losers part. They had to start a scorched earth policy. Rwanda is stable and prosperous, but not a democracy, not uniquely African. Well, Rwanda is a democracy, Brett. It's just a one-party state, essentially, though. It's not a liberal democracy. There's a difference. People get to vote there. I love Botswana, well-managed country. South Africa, learn a lot from Botswana. True, kilometers per hour. It is, but Botswana has much improvement as well. It needs to improve itself in many ways. The BDP, the Botswana Democratic Party, has never been out of office, and we see the rot that sets in with that. The current president has lost the plot, and his tiny ego reminds me a lot of Thabo Mbeki, making decisions because his feelings are hurt. Not true. Brett, South Africa true democracy. Many black South Africans admit are not anti-white. Some. Well, what I would say about South Africa's democracy is it's flawed democracy, and let me explain that. So the problem is people don't get to vote for the president. You're not voting for the president. Nobody chose Cyril Ramaphosa. No South Africans, certainly not 57 million of them. Yes, someone did choose him. The parliament chose him because the system is based on a party list, and so parties run. You don't vote for candidates, you vote for the party. You go into the booth, ANC, COPE, Freedom Front Plus, DA, you vote for them, and they pick who represents you. That's not true representative democracy, and that's a flawed system. It's critically flawed. It's possibly fatally flawed for South Africa, and it's what's allowed the ANC to behave the way they do. So you see things like Jacob Zuma, a known criminal, a person with a ludicrous attitude towards the world. Well, I took a shower. That's how I didn't get HIV. Are you serious? In the case where he was accused of rape. A man who received a wad of cash from Sheikh Shabir criminally. The court said that that money went to Jacob Zuma criminally, and he should be held accountable for it, and he never has been held accountable for it. It's not, there's 9 no confidence votes, and then the last one, he was nearly thrown out of office. The party system South Africa has based on the party being more important. And the reason I say it's flawed is, let me show you this. Think about this, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not South African, if you're South African, this may seem normal to you. But if you're from the rest of the world, you might find this quite bizarre. What do I mean? Well, in South Africa, when Thabo Mbeki was unseated by his political party at the Polokwane conference, the party conference in Polokwane, Petersburg, for those of you who know the town. So when that happened, right, he had to resign as president of South Africa. Now, he was president of the African National Congress. So what? Who cares? Here in the U.S., the presidents are not presidents of their party. They're just recognized as a senior official for the party, and they have no official position in the party. But in South Africa, the president of the ANC is also president of the Republic because he's voted in by the parliament. When he was thrown out as president of the ANC, it should have no impact on his role as president of South Africa. He's not representing the ANC, he's representing South Africa, but in fact, it's the opposite. Look at these people today. You see Ramaphosa is listed as the president of the ANC first, then president of the Republic of South Africa. That's broken. That's not democracy. That's an oligarchy. The parties are oligarchs ruling the country. That's not a true democracy. This is all a consequence of the Convention on Democratic South Africa and the ANC's ability to manipulate the situation and the National Party's capitulation to end apartheid. In their haste to end it, this is what they came up with. And it's flawed. It's very flawed. That's the problem. Heinrich Becker says the first step towards freedom of democracy was the scrapping of apartheid. The next step would have been the depoliticization, democratization. Yeah, you fail because of CODESA. Now, you succeed in some respects because of CODESA, but you fail because of CODESA as well. Cyril was chosen by the comrades. That's right. South Africa, and he was barely chosen by the comrades, folks. Let's not lose sight of this. He nearly lost that election to Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, who he then brings into his cabinet. Seriously? That was about as stupid as Barack Obama bringing Hillary Clinton in as the Secretary of State. That was dumb. Never should have the elevator to that. She just chucked her down the road. Crazy stuff. South Africa is like ESCOM. We should close the whole thing down and start from scratch. Well, you know, it could be like a whiteboard, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so here we go. All right. Okay, let's see. Okay, all right. Okay. So this is what we came up with on our whiteboard. Okay, hang on. Okay, so here's what's on the whiteboard, ladies and gentlemen. Wait. That's all cock. Let's just erase it. There we go. Well, oh no, wait. Whiteboard. That's racist. That's a whiteboard. Sorry, my writing surface, which happens to be white. By the way, they make black ones too, and they make gray ones, and they make purple ones, but it doesn't show up very well on camera. So yeah, that's when you do erase. Wax on, wax off. There you go. My racist whiteboard. Anyway, back to this. Morton says there are many big gay liberty types out there, perhaps not as well educated, so well spoken, but the locations are full of good people. They're the silent majority. That's who you have to get out and see. This is what I've been arguing for opposition parties in South Africa. You must be in the townships, in the rural villages, in the countryside, on farms, in the mines, in businesses around the country, shopping malls, recruiting people to your world view. 10.5 million people voted for the ANC in 2019. That's insane. They shouldn't have got more than 3 million votes. The other parties failed abysmally, with the exception of the economic freedom fighters who increased their percentage slightly, but they've plateaued. They're not going further. Pinar from Vike says, do you think ISIS in Mozambique is a legitimate threat to South Africa? Well, it could become a legitimate threat to South Africa because South Africa is run by a bunch of idiots, and they could take steps to make themselves more legitimate targets. But with the exception of PAGAD, People Against Gangsterism and Drugs in Cape Town, and the Boermag, terrorist groups in South Africa have not been particularly effective or well known, but there are plenty of terrorists operating in South Africa. What's Chris talking about? Well, South Africa is a bastion of a place for people to raise money and or transit cash amongst terrorist groups around the world. That's why South Africa actually matters in the global war on terrorism, because it is a conduit for these types to send resources and also to hold meetings. People travel from Pakistan and the Middle East and other parts of the world to South Africa just to meet with others because there's less attention showered on them than, say, in London, Amsterdam, New York, Chicago. So yeah, South Africa does play a role in that, and it's important. But anyway, there you go. But yeah, ISIS is not a threat to South Africa if South Africa just doesn't act like a bunch of idiots. But you know, it's the ANC, so anything can happen. If we have direct elections, well, only the rich can. Shirley Creed says, if we have direct elections, won't only the rich who can run? No, I mean we have lots of people in our government who aren't rich. those who are rich are actually a small handful. Now, some who've stayed in government forever become rich. That's another story, and maybe have term limits. But yeah, lots of people can run for office. You start at the local level. You build a name for yourself. You get elected on a township, a town council, become mayor, city administrator, and you work your way up from there if you're going to do that. Or if you're well known, then just run for higher office. Zuma famously uttered "party before the country." That's true. Robin says, my reasons for not voting is not the same as everyone else's reasons. The Brits forced the system on its way back. Yes and no. You had a chance to change the system entirely with Codesa. You didn't. When I say you, I mean South Africa, not you individually, Wizard. Yanni says, Botswana money currency pool is worth more than the ZAR. It has been for 15 years, worth more than the Rand. Brett says, why is there such an AIDS pandemic in Lesotho, 20% of the population? Well, it's complicated, but it has to do with social and cultural norms, but it also has to do with the fact that much of Lesotho's working population is migrant and works in South Africa historically, and that was greatly impacted, and people got infected in South Africa and brought it back to Lesotho, by and large. And so it's complicated, but that plays a large role in it. But one of the big issues across Southern Africa is the role of multiple concurrent partners, people who sleep with more than one person at a given time. For those who know this term in Botswana, South Africa, when I refer to the term small house, you'll know what I'm talking about. This sort of phenomenon in which a person who has the means, particularly someone in government or in business, will have a married partner and or children, and children usually, and then oftentimes will have an informal unmarried partner on the side who they have a relationship with, and that's the small house. Oftentimes even having children, it goes on for years. So having multiple concurrent partners exposes more people to the virus, which helped it spread more rapidly. Long-distance trucking routes plays another role, less so in Lesotho, although a lot of trucks come into Lesotho and drivers bring the HIV in with them and then spread it there. All of that plays a role. So that's part of the reason why Lesotho has such a high rate. Swaziland has the highest rate in the world. South Africa has a shockingly high rate still. Botswana's rate is down below 15% now, but it's still far too high. All of this, it's very complicated, but I think that answers the question, Brett. Morton says the old Boer republics never had political parties. You voted for the candidate, no party politics. Yeah, that'd be cool. The party's elected, they bring in their own buddies regardless of the education. True. That's why the ANC deploys its cadres, and that's a real problem. Do you believe in coincidence? Neither do I. Nigerian president found dead after kicking who out? What? What? Nigeria's president is dead? What's this? Buhari is dead. What? There's no news Buhari's dead. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? You throw me off here. Throw me off my game. What's going on there? You just messing with me? Yeah, so Buhari's not dead. It's not racist to write on a whiteboard because you're eradicating the white. Ah, Gareth, you flipped the narrative. Good point. Thank you. I'll remember that one. It's kind of like I shared in the Three Amigos stream. I told someone, I said, who identified as a lamp, I said, well, I identify as a lampshade because I shed light on the world. You have to turn around. Heinrich says, SA now has a restaurant bomber in charge of domestic foreign. Yeah, let's get started on that. Polygamy is common in Africa, and it works for them, and all the kids have a father in their lives, and I don't see a problem. Okay. Steve Jobs had cancer. He did have cancer, that's true. Right, okay, so we did the Big Day Liberty thing. I want to share a couple more things. I have more news to report. I'm going to come back, ladies and gentlemen, later today at 9:35 in South Africa and Botswana, 3:35 Eastern Standard for my regular straight voltage. I'll give it a little different name so you know it's a different session, but we'll cover the news there. But we'll talk more about Malawi. We'll talk about Nelson Mandela. We'll talk about, what else I got here? Some things I want to cover today. I'm just looking. Maybe Super Rugby, because New Zealand is bailing on Sanzar and trying to kick South Africa and Argentina out of it. So we'll see what happens there. And we'll talk about it a little bit later on. And then also, boy, imagine this. There's a corruption allegation against Huawei in Namibia. But it's okay. Huawei is a good company. They're just bringing inexpensive 5G to the world. Keep telling yourself that. By the way, no one's asked me about my jersey. Today, this is the official jersey, not the sport jersey, but the polo sort of shirt for the Rugby World Cup 2019 in Japan for the USA. There you go. Kind of cool little patterns on these things. I like those. Yeah, look at that. There you go. And we got the USA on the chest right here, and then Rugby World Cup right there, 2019. Yep, so that's what I'm wearing today. Shooting zombies. Who's shooting zombies? All right. Samokokung Lesotho, Will and Harry. New item is a Vegas Golden Knights Tiki. Ah, Anthony, it's new, but it's not that new. That's correct. Actually been up there for about almost a week now, and nobody's mentioned it. So the Easter egg was the Golden Tiki. That's right, the Vegas Golden Knights. Good job. Good job. All right. So for those of you wondering what we're prattling on about, my display back there is not static. It changes, and that's kind of like for software programmers talk about Easter eggs. That's kind of my Easter egg for my streams. I change it up back there periodically. So well done. Good job. You caught it. It was the Tiki for the Golden Knights. I'm a huge ice hockey fan. And by the way, that season is going to restart here in a matter of days. The National Hockey League will be restarting with no fans in the stands, but we'll be able to watch it. Huawei is good for consumer devices. Sure, Gareth, it absolutely is. If you want all your information shared with Beijing, more on you. Don't trust a commie. Shooting zombies or game I say are sleeping to be up at 4. You're talking about later, Gareth. Sanzar will only look after New Zealand rugby interest. Super Rugby was dead. Time for some nationalism. Good Curry Cup. Well, it's time for more than 10 people to show up in a Curry Cup match. That'd be a good start in South Africa. Great. You can look up Mandela necklace in Holland. Okay. Join late. Can we make a note of that, Robin? Okay. What you're talking about there, because that's come up now 2 or 3 times in the chat. Okay. Right. Okay. And I saw the video. Okay. Nigeria's foreign minister is the COVID-19. Yeah, lots of folks. We just had a member of parliament in Malawi die from COVID-19, so I'm going to mention that a little bit later on too, and we'll talk about rugby. Sharon Westfall joined late. Has anyone heard of the vandalizing Mandela statue? No, I think that's what people were asking about, Sharon. I will research that, and when I come back on for the Night Owl version, that's what we'll call it today, I guess the Stray Voltage Night Owl edition, which will be at 9:35 in South Africa and in Botswana, here at 3:35 Eastern Standard Time, after I take a break, get some lunch, do a little research, and take a look at, be like the groundhog and look outside, see if it's safe to pop outside. Yeah, we'll talk about that later on. Okay, true, but our stadiums are just too big. They're not too big, Pinar. Come on. They were full before. Rugby used to always be full, and it was mostly white folks. Now everybody goes to the games. Coloreds, blacks, Asians, Indians. There's lots of reasons why rugby stadiums are empty in South Africa, but if you want healthy rugby, you need to fill the stadiums up. Teams need to be able to make money, and people need to be able to play. Players need to play in front of crowds. A huge crowd makes a big difference when you play. Watching Loftus Versfeld with 1,800 people in it for a Bulls game, I'm almost in tears. It's really, really sad, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, really, really sad. China owns TikTok. That is true, as well as Alibaba and Haier, the largest appliance maker in the world. And Haier owns General Electric, which is General Electric Appliances, which they sold to the Chinese in 2018 with almost no fanfare, despite the fact that Donald Trump was president. Now, I don't oppose the sale of assets from one company to another. If I did, then I would have taken great umbrage at South African breweries purchasing Miller, becoming SAB Miller, and selling our American brewery, or AB InBev buying Anheuser-Busch. Now, I wasn't thrilled about that one, but nonetheless, so no major Coors is a Canadian-U.S. venture now. It's majority owned U.S., so it's really the only major beer producer in America that's still an American company. Anheuser-Busch belongs to the Belgians/Brazilians of AB InBev, who are hyper fanatic about profitability and shred jobs left and right. And then Miller is back now. I think it's actually part of Coors, if I'm not mistaken. But so foreigners can buy companies, but so I didn't complain about Haier. But the point is that Haier is the largest appliance maker in the world, and it's Chinese. And there's a reason why that happened. Not because they're talented. Intellectual property theft has something to do with a lot of these companies. Did you just say neons? No, I didn't say neons. Did I say neons? Infringements. You're too kind. China specializes in property infringements. That's true. Yeah, China is all about stealing U.S. IP. That's true. And artificial and genuine barriers against trade, protectionism, keeping foreign products out of their marketplace while selling their crap everywhere else. It's not a level playing field. And the U.S. can blame themselves. We're the ones who sponsored them joining the World Trade Organization. The African slave trade existed in Africa way before Europeans arrived. A Nigerian writer for the BBC is telling people this saying her Nigerian great-grandfather owned slaves. That's true. It's about time people started being honest about that. And why don't we talk about slavery today? You have these idiots in the U.S. talking about reparations, which is a lunatical position to talk about. I didn't own slaves. I haven't profited from slaves. I started over in scratch. I didn't have the money to go to university. I got free lunch at school because I lived in poverty. When I went to university, I got full grant assistance and student loans, which I had to pay back, because I was poor. So I didn't benefit from any slavery. I didn't benefit. And if you say American benefit, well, so then why didn't Black Americans benefit if I didn't, so it's ludicrous. So paying reparations for something that people did 200, 300 years ago, 150 years ago has no bearing on this. What about the lives? Can I have reparations for my ancestors who died? Can I have reparations for my cousin who was shot down by the Nazis over the Mediterranean, fighting in North Africa and Tunisia? By the way, his last flight, he took out the unit that replaced him. The rest of his pilots were already preparing to go back because they were rotating out. And he went out to familiarize the new flight that was there. And when the Nazis attacked their formation by surprise, he stayed and delayed the Nazis and maneuvered so that the rest of the young pilots who were inexperienced could get back to Tunis and land safely because they were outnumbered, and gave his life, never found his body, somewhere in the Mediterranean along with his aircraft. Yeah. Can I have reparations for that? Can I have reparations for my great-great-grandfathers who served in the Civil War defending the Union to end slavery? Do I get reparations for that? It's idiotic. It's moronic. Now, if somebody was robbed 10 years ago by the existing government now, reparations, that's a legitimate argument. But no, this is a stupid argument. What about the 75 million people living in slavery today around the world? No discussion about that. No one cares about them. Yep. Gareth says rugby stadiums are empty because the prices are too high. I disagree with that, Gareth. I've gone to rugby matches in South Africa. The prices are very inexpensive. Even when you adjust the prices for per capita income in South Africa, they're very affordable. And if they're too expensive, then they should make lower class prices for the higher seats and such and let people come there or hand tickets out. There's a lot of reasons. I disagree with that, but you may be onto something, but my position is to disagree. Robin enjoys watching rugby, says it's so vicious. I don't know about vicious. GE is owned by the Chinese Communist Party now. GE Appliances, not the whole company. Wow, you guys keep jumping in here with stuff. Okay, must have misheard. Maybe, I don't know. If I said neon, I didn't mean to. You see the Uyghurs being loaded in train cars in China. Want to rant about tobacco? What are we going to rant about tobacco, Irma? Okay, Arabs had slaves, Roman Empire slaves, Persian Empire slaves. Yeah, everybody had slaves, and people still have slaves. If reparations happen, then the nations of Ghana, Benin, Nigeria will be sued. Yep, there you go. Lezan, hey, welcome, Lezan. Funny enough, I love going to live sports with, okay, you're an introvert, but Dreon hates it, yet he doesn't mind socializing. That's funny. Robin says, great points. Well, thank you, Robin. I appreciate that. Brett says, the Japanese Americans that got reparations were the people who were displaced and sent to camps. That is correct. That's correct, Brett. Absolutely correct. And that's my point. We're living in the Hunger Games site. Yeah, it seems like it, doesn't it? There are many industrial towns with empty factories in South Africa, formerly nice places. We import everything from China. Well, a great example of that is the textile industry in South Africa. 25 years ago, 90+% of all textiles that people bought in South Africa were made in South Africa. Today, less than a third of textiles are made in South Africa. And when it comes to shoes, it's like 10% or something like that or less. This is because the ANC has allowed its economy to be eviscerated by foreign competition, because South African production is not efficient. Productivity is low in South Africa across the board, and so you can't compete on industrial manufacturing with countries like China, Taiwan, Malaysia, places like that. And so they've allowed these goods to flood into their country while allowing China to restrict South African exports to, now they're not going to export lots of shoes to China, but restricting South African exports into China. And there you go, one-sided trade. Same situation in the United States, collusion between the successive administrations of Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, all undermining U.S. economic welfare for the benefit of large corporations in America who offshored their production to China, all in the interest of increasing their profitability, rather than worrying about the long-term viability of their business model. Yeah, there you go. Anyway, there you go. All right, let me see. What else? A couple more comments here, and then we'll wrap up. Garrett says, you went on a U.S. colonial salary earning dollars. Try taking 2 adults, 2 kids. Okay, all right. Garrett is having a go at me now. Right, okay, so let me see. All right, let me see. All right, so So 700, 850, 950. 950 divided by 18. That's $52. Gareth, I got you. $52. Do you know what it costs to go to a National Football League game? Those $52 don't even cover the top seats at the top, let alone the $40 for parking, $10 for a beer, or $15 for a beer, $10 for a hot dog, $10 for a program. Going to a National Football League game costs people $500 to $1,000 for the cheap seats. Dollars. Not 1,000 rand, dollars. You're paying 1/10 that. So it's all relative. It depends where you come from. I get your point. It depends on income level. Seems like a lot of money, 950 rand. My colonial salary, that's funny. Brett says most of the freed slaves were compensated with 40 acres a mule. Compensation wasn't universal. It was underfunded. That was 50 years ago. Well, they were promised that. Not everybody got that. It's not cheap. It's expensive. Sick of it. Old days of broom would last years. Sick of the exploitation. I agree on that. It's inferior quality, not cheap as in inexpensive, but cheap in quality. Textile industry in South Africa. Yep, that's right, Erica. And it's going on from there. Many, many more things that's happening to now in South Africa. $10 a beer. No wonder you have so many moonshiners. That's nothing. I've been to events in the U.S. where they charge $15 for a bottle of beer, about this size, $15. Can you imagine that? And of course, the beer is sold in plastic bottles because people throw them at soccer games. So, not that I go to soccer games, but anyway, way too much money in sports entertainment. Yeah, for these egotistical, condescending athletes who run around and tell us, Black Lives Matter when they didn't give a about Black Lives Matter until it became hip and cool, or at least they think it's hip and cool. So we're being preached upon. So now you understand my reason for why I took great umbrage with the National Football League, its players violating the terms of their employment contract by taking knee during the national anthem. They violated the terms that were achieved under collective bargaining. So they should have been sanctioned for that. If I go to a National Football League game and I pay $750 for my tickets, my parking, to watch a game in which I have a team that's terrible and I'm still a fan of them, they lose, I don't want some asswipe taking a knee, disrespecting the 680,000 people or 670,000 people or 20,000 members who've died in combat defending this nation, Native American, Black, White, Asian, Japanese, Korean, whoever they were. All those people have died supporting this nation. To see someone because they've got a political beef or they want attention, that's insulting to me. If I'm watching on TV, I can turn the channel, but I just wasted $750 to come to this game. They don't have the right to do that when they violate their terms. And now you understand the crux of my issue with the sports leagues. If they want to do this stuff, the National Football League has a television channel on cable television that's on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They can, on that channel, have a program dedicated to the things they claim are real issues. And if I want to watch it, I'll watch it. If I don't want to watch it, I'll turn the channel. That gives me a choice. There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Start $50. Oh, that's nothing, Brew. That's nothing, man. Listen, there are tickets that cost $1,500 for middle of the field in many NFL games. Per game, per person. Most people go to the game with a significant other. That's $3,000. Sometimes it's more. It's insane. Yes, politics and sports should not mix, but they always do. Look at the 1980 Olympics. They always do. Chris is a moonshiner. He lives in the Appalachians, has a beard. Maybe. When NT was in travel rape, Boucher went with him to court every day. They say cricket supported him, pushed it under the rug. Another Ashwin disgrace. Yep, there you go. Absolutely true. Right, folks. Okay, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to call it here because I need to get some food, refresh, come back. For those able to come back and join me for the later Night Owls Stray Voltage live stream, I'll be back on the air at 3:35 Eastern Standard Time or 9:35 in South Africa and Botswana, 8:35 in Windhoek, Lagos, and London. All right, folks, so we'll catch you there. Curry Cup games, yeah, Super Rugby at a push. Got you, Gareth. I'm with you on that. Come back. We'll talk about rugby later on, Gareth. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Really appreciate the comments, the contributions. Everybody on the channel. We've had some more people subscribe. Let me just take a quick look at that and see where we're at. So they give credit to people we have now on the channel. Let me see where this is at. Before we started the stream, let's see. Come on, load. Oh, we've gained another 20 subscribers to the channel, 5,585 current subscribers to the channel. By the way, also, let me throw this shout out very quickly because I don't think I got everybody's attention yesterday for members. I thought I lost a member, but one member must have changed a form of payment and has regained, so thank you for rejoining. Yesterday, Jacques and Gareth joined. Thank you so much for joining. We have 75 members on Chris Wide Africa, and I'll put up the member goal for the next stream. We'll try to get to 100. That'd be really cool. Do we even have any super chats on this stream? I don't think. No super chats, but thank you anyway for the thoughts. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying your Sunday day, morning, evening, afternoon, whatever it is for you guys. I'll catch you guys back here in about 2 hours, folks. God bless, and we'll see you a little bit later on. Let me go ahead and close out the stream with the. Hang on a second. Let me try to get back to where I was at there. There we go. I want to close out the stream with my. Oh gosh, bless it. Here we go.